Hello, and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We are here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is John Ainsworth, and today's guest is Matt Bertram. Matt is a trainer, author, keynote speaker, and consultant in digital marketing and social selling. He's currently the co-host of the most popular SEO podcast on iTunes and Ahrefs. He's lead digital strategist at eWeb Results, a global digital marketing agency since 1999. He writes for Entrepreneur, Forbes, and Search Engine Journal. And on top of that, he is fractional CMO of OGGN, an oil and gas podcasting network. Dude is a busy man. Now, today we're going to be talking about why SEO sometimes isn't the right option for low-ticket items, mistakes that people make in SEO, and what the current best practices are, and a lot more besides. Before we dive into our interview with Matt, I've got an important question for you. Do you own a course or authority website? If you do, then do you know there's a short list of techniques that can help you double to about quintuple your revenue? There's 8 techniques my team uses to help online course creators grow their revenue by an average of 428%. If you want to know what those tactics are and get a breakdown for your particular business, go to courseprofitreport.com. There's a short survey, and my team will create a personalized report just for you. So go to courseprofitreport.com. Now, back to the show. Matt, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for joining me.
Great, John. Thanks for having me. Like the introduction, appreciate it. And I think they need to go check out your course. I think that was a great pitch. So
thank you very much. So talk to me before we get into anything about SEO. This is, I think you said it's the longest running podcast on digital marketing. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's what I keep getting told. And if you go to like show notes or something like that, or like listen notes, it's called listennotes.com. It's the top 0.5% of all podcasts.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a really crazy journey. We actually started doing podcasts before they were hot, right? Like right now, like everything about podcasting and podcasting advertising and, everything. We were really doing it to communicate to our internal team, and not have to repeat ourselves. So we were just recording basically our knowledge and saying, hey, here's what we need to be doing on websites. Here's what we need to be doing on this. Here's some articles that we just read that are awesome that you need to go check out. And here's kind of our takeaways from it. So we were using it as more of a documenting or archiving of information to then also distribute it internally. And then other digital marketers and other agencies and other people were like, we want this. And so then, and then there was definitely a phase in there where our audio wasn't very good. And people, but we weren't doing it for anybody else. And if you used to look at anything podcast related we were doing, it was all internal. It was all insider kind of slang. And for in our company, it was company culture stuff. So people didn't really know what it was. And just kind of, it has evolved over time. And yeah, it's been great. And it's been a fun journey. And now we're looking at developing that into its own business. And we've started a number of other podcasts. We've helped clients start podcasts. I was even pulled in on OGGN, Oil and Gas Global Network. It's based out of Houston. It's the largest oil and gas podcasting network in the world. And if you go to OGGN.com, it's like Amazon Web Services, Hewlett Packard, IBM. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. And we're working with some really big vendors that want to get access to the oil and gas community. And I've been working with PodFest. I encourage you all to go check it out. And they've helped a lot with how to monetize and take the podcast to the next level. It's really never been something that we were doing for really other people. It was something we were doing for ourselves. It was like we were blogging online or journaling online, and it's just kind of evolved into what it's become. And it's, like I said, it's been a great journey. So
nice, man. That's amazing. Really impressive. Yeah, we've just been running this podcast for like a year. You've been doing that for like 20 something years. It's like, that's badass.
No. I think it's about a little over 10 years.
10 years. Sorry. Okay.
And I actually, there's been a couple of different hosts, but there's been a core host of it. And almost every month for sure, but almost every week for a solid like 7 or 8 years, every week. Like I would have to stay up at the office till like 12 o'clock, like midnight during a weekday, because my partner was like, no, we have to do a podcast. And I was like, this was before I had kids and stuff, but it was like, no, we're doing a podcast. And I was like, it's Friday at 11 o'clock. Like I'm going home. And he's like, no, we have to do a podcast. So it was something like called a 1,000-mile march, or there's some kind of slogan like that, as you just keep going. Even the data says, I think it's 7 or 12 podcasts you have to get to build up that consistency for people to keep going and for people to start watching. And there's really a lot of great things that I'm learning along the way that I certainly wish I knew. And now podcasting is just everywhere now, and sponsorships are getting beaten down our door, and it's not something that we expected. And really, when you have a podcast, when you were doing like live broadcasts, right? So if you have 2 people doing a live broadcast and you're not talking to somebody like we're talking, you're just talking to the camera. And it's really like, it's not a natural thing. And so it certainly evolved a lot, and the technology's gotten easier. We had all the old hardcore hookups and from when you played in a band and stuff. So, but yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
Sweet. That's amazing, man. All right, cool. So let's switch angles here. Your podcast about SEO. Let's talk about SEO. You told me that there are downsides to SEO for selling low ticket items. Nearly all of our audience are selling low ticket items, somewhere definitely under $500. The majority of their courses are around $79 to about $200, somewhere in that range. So what are the downsides to SEO for selling low ticket items?
Well, yeah, maybe downside is a strong word, but certainly having a good strategy. Okay. Having the right strategy. So really, you got to think about your ROI when you're spending money on ads, right? So there's self-liquidating offers. Typically, like when you're building a consulting model, there's things that you have to look about with paid ads. And it's basically a math problem, right? If you spend $1, you get 1.25 back, and you're up, right? Now with SEO, it's a lot of time and investment similar to that. And it's more like owning real estate versus renting real estate. So long-term, the ROI on SEO outmatches almost anything. Even emails, and I don't have the data on SMS and ringless drops, but it's better than emails. Okay. If you do it right, and it's long-term. But the problem with SEO is you have to do SEO for a long time, and you have to be doing it on the right keywords, and you have to be in the top 3 positions on Google, not the top page, the top 3 positions. And even from the position 3 to position 1, it's a 200x increase from position 3 to position 1. So that's why SEO takes so long to quote unquote work. If you're 5 pages back or not even ranked for it, you have to get ranked for it. You have to move all the way up. To get to the first page is a big jump that you have to build some trust signals with Google. And then the top 5, top 3, they're like incumbents, right? The top 3 are like incumbents. But to break through there's a lot of things you have to do. But once you get in the top 3, if you have everything working right, and on page is correct, and UX is correct, and there's good on-page data from what the users are doing, it's almost like a jet stream. You keep feeding Google data, you keep giving it good data, and it keeps you in those top positions. And sometimes it's very hard to break into that. And so again, it depends where you're starting with SEO. And if you're starting from nothing, it's a monumental task. And also it takes a village to do SEO, and unless you're very tactical and laser focused on different things. So, and what I would say too, is a lot of people want to go after those high volume, big target keywords that everybody else is going after. And it's very competitive, and you're just not going to spend enough money or spend enough time that's going to make sense for your ROI. There might be other strategies of maybe even going to a networking group or doing a podcast or something like that might be more effective than SEO. Now, if you're really good at content and you understand some of the technicals, and maybe you built some good partnerships or relationships online where people can share and tap their audience, it's certainly a good medium. But you want to go after certainly super long tail key phrases, answering the question absolutely better than anybody else to rank in those top positions. And then you don't need to do as much work. So if it's not as competitive, there's not as many search terms, and you are answering the question, that one specific question, that one specific page better than anybody else, Google will take care of you. Think about it like this. when you go to a restaurant, which I mean, everybody's like COVID, everybody's maybe not going to a restaurant a lot, but you go get a fountain drink and there's all these different options in certain restaurants, at least there is here in the US of, you want Dr. Pepper, you want Coke, you want Sprite, you want like all these different brands, you want orange soda, you want tea, you can just press it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, most people build pages with all kinds of information. They don't really think about the headers, how things are organized from a editorial standpoint for content. So they have multiple H1s, they have multiple H2s, they have all these different things. Well, you're saying that this site is about all these different things, and it's not about one specific thing, and it doesn't build on that point of that specific thing. So think about going up there and you want to drink Sprite, right? And you get like half Sprite and half water, and you drink it, you're like, right? Or you just like do a suicide and you like, I don't know, I call it a suicide where you get like all of them, right? Or whatever. Like when I was a kid in camp, we got like a suicide drink or whatever. I think it was called OK Soda. And you like never knew what you were going to get. And they just mixed a bunch of flavors or whatever. But essentially, that's not what you want to do with SEO. Like Google is very particular. And if you wanted bubbled carbonated water, and then you get Coke or you get Sprite or you get tap water when you thought it was carbonated water, it doesn't like it, right? So you want to have for each person that page that answers that specific thing. Look at what the competitors are doing and organize. Like Google's trying to organize all information in the world. And so, what they're starting to do now is they're delisting a bunch of blogs because people just rewrite blogs and they're not adding any value. There was a client that came to us recently, and we have like a big agency or whatever, and they had over 80 blogs. Okay. 80 blogs. That's a lot of blogs. I mean, if you think about how long it takes to write blogs, 80 blogs, only 4 of them, when we went into Google Search Console, were even indexed. Now, if they're not indexed, they don't help your SEO at all.
Yeah. Google
auto unindexed them, basically said, these don't have enough value to even put in the millions of callbacks that we have, which they're actually reducing those callbacks because 75% of all searches are new. And so they're starting to data manage a little bit, and they're going, no one's going to go back that many pages. No one does. And so, you know what? This is actually not helpful. And Google's looking for a lot of things that show that you're an authority in the space, expertise, authority, and trust. I know you kind of mentioned my book earlier, I think, and basically we were talking previously, but in the green room, but really authorship online, like when you write something and then you write something over here, Google wants to know that you have credibility to say that, right? So if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you're writing a blog versus you or I writing a blog about, and maybe you are a doctor or I don't know, but for this example, that doctor or lawyer on any topic, medical or legal, if they set up their online authorship properly, they should outrank us. They should have more authority in us, right? So Google's not just looking at what's being said and how accurate it is and how trusting it is and how fact verifying it is with backlinks and all that kind of things, but who's saying it. And so it's really important to build your online brand online. And a lot of that is what shows up in Google, what shows up in the SERPs. If you have a lot of followers, for example, on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, all those are actually links to a site, right? To a URL. And Google actually can see, hey, there's thousands, there's millions of people that are linking to this person. And then they can use data to see, are those people all in India or all those people all in US or all those people all over? And it's going to serve up customized results to different people based on where they are in the world, where they are based on their prior search behavior. That's why Google Chrome, they set it up, is they're tracking all this data to provide you the best result of what you're looking for and the best piece of information to anybody. And so when you talk about SEO, there's now YouTube SEO and LinkedIn. It's all about showing up in those search algorithms on those different platforms. And you got to understand how those algorithms are written. For example, TikTok is written completely different than all the other platforms. And what they do is they actually have a pool of your friends and they test different things that your friends liked or people that you've engaged with previously that liked. and it's a different way of how the algorithms run.
Mm.
And understanding that is really important for SEO. So when you're selling social courses online, it might not be organic search SEO or national search SEO is like what you want to do. It might be YouTube SEO, or it might be, so you got to be careful like what you say and how you say it. But certainly from an agency standpoint, I know we were talking in the pre-interview, is we typically work with like bigger ticket items. So if we're doing e-commerce selling, certainly like depending on margins, depending on volume, depending on price, online does work. But if it's a lower ticket item, right, and you're spending X amount on marketing, how long does it take to recoup your investment? And you typically might look at things on a quarterly basis or an annual basis, or even a biannual or 6-month basis to decide, am I going to invest this money to do it? And typically with small ticket items and small courses, email automation might be a way better option than SEO. Now, if you're selling, and with digital courses, you can scale to millions. That's one of the advantages, right? Like a SaaS model or a course model, you can sell that hundreds of thousands of times and be able to scale just by hosting, right? And a funnel setup. And so it just depends where you are. But I would say, SEO works if you have an existing business and you're bolting on maybe a course program, right? Because you already have something established out there, and it's that 0 to first position or top position on Google is the desert that you're going to be walking through, where you're going to be spending money and you're going to be trudging along and you're going to be doing work and you're going to be going, I don't have any ROI. So unless that payoff at the end of the road is there's enough search volume, like you got to really run your numbers to make sure your strategies right. And typically if you're selling one course and then you have upsells of other stuff, then it starts to be more economical, I guess. Right. So if you have any questions about that, but that's the overall framework. And certainly SEO is now everything. PR, online PR is now SEO, and G&B is a different type of SEO, and then all the social platforms. And, basically it's just saying, I want to show up on whatever platform, that's SEO. And again, that's what I talk about in my book of how to kind of do that locally. And there's a lot of changes within Google, but one of the biggest things that Google wants to see is this person says they're the best or says they're really good at this, but are they? What are the trust signals that they can look at to prove that, right? So if you're part of a chamber, or you're mentioned in the news, or you've sponsored this, or you've gone to this race, or you're posting on social media and people are sharing about you or your business in that area, like there's all these kind of different factors. So it all comes down to, honestly, like the right strategy. So if you don't have the right strategy and you have a low ticket item, so you have really thin margins of your marketing dollars to what you're going to make, you got to be laser focused on what you're going to do, or you're going to spin your wheels and you're going to run out of money. Like most businesses, right? Most small businesses, micro businesses, the reason they don't last is, and even podcasts. I've seen a lot of podcasts. There's even podcasts I've gone back to that I was a guest on in the past, and they're no longer there. So something happened, whatever their model is, where they stopped doing that, or it wasn't sustainable. And so having that right strategy and maybe talking with a digital strategist or consultant or someone like myself, really, really important to make sure you're going to stay out of a ditch and you're not going to spin your wheels, and it is going to be profitable. So it's really evaluating if SEO is the right option. SEO is just another tool in the tool belt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the things that can be forgotten with courses, do-it-yourself courses, which is what most people listening to this podcast are selling, is that the margin on the sale is nearly 100%, right? You might have some customer service cost, but it's very close to 100%, which is great. But the majority of the budget goes into marketing. Like that's the
customer acquisition,
cost.
Right? Like your customer acquisition costs are not always included. And I've seen so many businesses that we've consulted that the owner's not paying themselves, right? And I mean, there's books out there and there's trainings out there, but you got to pay yourself first. You got to build yourself in as an employee, because if you're just going, hey, well, I'm making this, but you're not living off of it and you're investing it all into the company, or your customer acquisition costs are so high. Is it a viable model? That's the key. And what is the threshold you have to get to pull that stuff out, to put that stuff in marketing, to even have that money for unforeseen costs, to grow it in reserve? Like, it's all, I think, going back to business planning to a certain degree.
Okay. So let's say that somebody's listening to this and they're not being put off, and they're already using SEO, they're already getting results with it, they've already got going. And a lot of the people listening to the podcast, they have already built up an audience, they've already got to a certain level of success, whether it's through SEO or something else. What's some of the places that you see people go wrong the most with SEO? Like, what's some of the things that you're like, right, everyone's messing up their SERPs, or they have too many H1 tags, or what is it? What's the problems you see most often?
Yeah. The problems I see most often, and again, SEO is this expanded term, but if we say digital marketing, our podcast does address all these different factors, because I believe SEO is the core, but all these things are kind of hub and spoke of SEO and the website in the center. Number one thing, do retargeting, remarketing on the different platforms that you built the audience on and are active. That's the number one thing I see most people do, is they're not investing in. There's a typical, for most businesses, a 90-day sales cycle potentially, but 3% of people are ready to buy immediately. So they come to your website, 97% of people leave and never come back again. And you have no way to catch that window shopper or tag them. And certainly there's going to be, cookieless marketing. They're already finding ways with like PVV networks to get around this. But right now you can do almost anywhere retargeting. You should do that, because that's the best way to recapture it. And you're targeting a person, not a keyword. And it's much, much less, because you can then chase them around different platforms and put like under 10 cents or under 3-cent bid to show that ad, which could turn into a sale. That is, again, not SEO exactly, but I think it's a really a pro tip that I'm seeing a lot of. Certainly on SEO, people use headers to design their website. They have no concept of Google's looking at those headers for SEO. They just look at the styling of it. That's certainly problematic. They upload images without compressing properly the images, and they slow down the website. So you keep uploading these images, and every image you upload, you think you're getting better user experience and conversion, but it's actually slowing down the website. And if a website doesn't load in like 3 seconds, people leave. People don't like it. People don't like that experience. So we actually branched out a company called Co-Hosta, like co-host, we host with you kind of thing. And we hired some people from Google and GoDaddy and all that sort of thing. And they have some technical capabilities to do server-side optimization. You want to do lazy loading, but you want to optimize your site technically, and you want it to be blazing fast. Getting rid of plugins if you're using WordPress, just get rid of all that. Creates a bunch of extra code that has to be recalled, that slows it down. You can hire somebody to do the technical or heavy lifting in that area. But the number one, content, just content, bad content, not thinking about the user flow, thinking about who your target persona is and what they're doing on the website is the number one thing you can do to improve it. Add breadcrumbs. You don't want people clicking back button. That's bad. Google doesn't like those type of actions. Adding videos, adding text, custom graphics to websites to keep them on the page longer and to take positive actions is what Google wants to see. So again, if you're answering the right question, and this would be the last thing, because I know I'm throwing a lot at you, is one topic per page. Answer one question per page.
Yeah.
Even the Google people also ask that. We're doing a lot of that right now, is answering those questions effectively for the clients, to have FAQs on the different pages that are commonly asked about whatever it is you're trying to rank for. It is incredibly important. And then of course, I did mention it earlier, credibility. You need other people, third-party testimonials, all that sort of thing, but even other platforms. So you might copy and paste those testimonials and put them on your funnel, but you also need, the Yelps and the Trustpilots and the tier 2 sites. You need reviews on those sites, linking back to you, creating trust. And, you want people talking about you on on social media. Google does have a deal now with, well, Twitter, and now they've made up with Facebook that they can index all that. They can scrape it all and they can get that data. LinkedIn, they know what's going on these platforms. And if people are talking about you, Google likes brands. So just think of it from that standpoint. And you want to be more well-rounded. One of the worst things, if to ask what were really people falling off, the thing where I've seen people fall off the most is they got too laser focused on one keyword, right? And maybe the keyword was like something like this service plus a city. And that's how people search, like plumbing Houston or plumber Houston. And then they put in their text all throughout their text and their headers and all this, plumber Houston, plumber Houston. No one talks like that. Google does not like that. And they look like you're trying to, well, manipulate the algorithm, which you probably are.
Yeah.
And plumber in Houston or Houston plumbers or those different combinations. Don't get myopically focused on layering in that one keyword. Use a variety of different keywords that are similar to that, and then link to other things that are referencing whatever your content is talking about. But getting myopically focused on one keyword and then embedding that keyword, stuffing that in places, I see it far too many times, and content doesn't read naturally. And Google is getting smarter and smarter on that. And again, there's been a lot of changes that it's a whole podcast to go through all the changes that have happened in the last 10 months. But it's a constantly moving target. So you just want to remember, focus on good user experience. So if you can just focus on high quality user experience, you're going to get through all the updates, no problem. And one page per topic, and just lay out in a way that's really helpful, that if a prospect is somewhere in that buyer's journey, they come to that page, wherever it is in the buyer journey, you give them all the information to take the next step.
Nice.
It's that simple. People try to make it more complicated. They use all kinds of tricks and parasite stuff. And, I was looking at this thing of cloud hosting stacking, and like all these crazy like SEO things, all that stuff, honestly, is like, if you can't show it to a client, because we do a lot of like Fortune 500 stuff, it's spam. It's spam. And you're trying to trick the algorithm, and it's only going to last temporarily. And really, if you're selling low ticket items, you can't afford to do anything that's not going to last. Because I can tell you there's been little tricks that people have done. I'll give you one really great example. So there used to be this trick that people had, that they could use Google to link to Google through these kind of little ads that you create on all the different domains, right? So Google has a different domain for each country. So then you could build all these Google links that link to you, and you're sucking, or you're leveraging juice flow from Google to you. So boom, you're popping up in the search rankings, right? And so I started seeing all these people go boom, boom, boom. They started moving up in the search rankings. I investigated what they were doing. They were doing this strategy. And then I was on a Google webmaster call. Okay. And somebody, because this was a hot strategy at the time, goes, "Hey, is this a good SEO strategy?" And they asked it on the call. And Google, the webmasters, like the people, there was Matt Cutts, and then there's like 3 people that overtook him, and we've had a few of them on our podcast. But essentially, they were like, oh, like on the call, like we're talking on the call. Interesting. So the guy just uncovered what was happening.
Yeah.
Within 1 week, everybody that had done that strategy just fell like a rock. Like basically they just unindexed all that. And so that you can't afford to do that or be worried about that unless you're doing like a turn and burn site, or you're trying to pump it up for some reason. But if you're trying to build a brand and you're trying to build good SEO, all that is just spam. Okay. If you can't show it to the client, if it's not a good deliverable, if it's not having value, if the links don't add value, if the content doesn't add value, just spend your time focused on creating quality stuff. You'll actually get further in the long run. And anybody that's doing that stuff, it's the tortoise and the hare kind of concept, right? So I don't know. That's my recommendation. And again, we were talking about like, how do you do SEO wrong? And like, man, there's a lot more pitfalls than there are just following the basics, because it's not as shiny. It's not as exciting, right? Like there's a lot of these other things. SEO is just foundational, tried and true. What I believe is probably everybody will understand the basic concepts of SEO. And in companies and marketing overall, there won't be like SEO specialists. They'll just be like SEO training, SEO knowledge that everybody will have and everybody will be thinking about as they implement. That's where I really think the market maybe goes 5-10 years from now. And then AI is a whole different podcast too, of what's going on with that. I actually just did an AI podcast and we had an AI sponsor, and AI content is crazy right now. Google says it's spam. In some of the private groups I'm in, some of this content's so good, I don't think Google can tell the difference. And then they're kind of moving back to rating links, where about a year ago, they turn the dials on stuff all the time. So it's so hard to know what's working right now. There's certain things that might have a multiplier effect or having a dampening effect based on what they are. But if you just follow the core principles, the best practices, you're going to be fine, because that's all what they're trying to do is kind of dial it in and tweak it into just delivering good content for the user. So
nice. Yeah. Okay. So what I got from that is just focus on the fundamentals, do the things that are going to work, not just now, but in a year, 3 years, 5 years, because that's going to give you the long-term results, which means that the economics of it works out, because you might not get a great ROI in 30 days with SEO. In fact, no, you definitely won't. You might be 6 months or 9 months or whatever. So make sure you do the stuff that's going to pay off long-term, which is create great content. And then
I think it depends how long it's going to take to rank if you do the right things based on where you start the race, right? So if you're already ranking on the top of the second page and there's a bunch of different great tools out there. Actually, one of our sponsors is SE Ranking. They're a Ukrainian-based company. I really like a lot of the stuff that they're doing. I encourage you to go check it out. If you go to the Best SEO podcast and then /SE Ranking, we'll give you a month free. We have a month free offer. But what I would tell you is use some kind of tool, Uber Suggest, Ahrefs, SEMrush. I mean, there's a ton of them, right? But basically see where you're ranking on where you want to start and where that search volume is and what that difficulty is to start building your content strategy. But if you're on the top of the second page, to move to the first doesn't take that long. If you're on the first page, to move up doesn't take that long. If you're not ranked at all, it takes forever. We typically run our campaigns on a 3-month kind of marathon or sprint, kind of an agile model, but a 3-month sprint. And, it typically takes, what I'm seeing, Google doesn't say this. A lot of things Google tells you, or they don't publicize things, is they actually recently moved their sandboxing, where basically once you start doing a lot of SEO, they won't let the needle move right away because they don't want people, right? So they want to prove, they want to see consistency, especially if you increase your activity quite a bit, they can really easily see that. And so they dampen it or put like a weight on it until you can really go. It used to be 90 days. Now I think it's closer to 120 days before they like release it. It's kind of almost like they kind of like hold it with the rubber band, then they don't let it go and it doesn't snap up, but then it starts to move up to where it probably should be. So they want you to really invest in what you're doing. They don't like fly by night strategies is what I would tell you. So
amazing. Okay. So we've covered how to do a long running podcast, keep going till midnight, the downsides to SEO, low ticket items, places people go wrong with SEO and what's new in SEO right now and what's fundamentally not new, what you should keep doing. I just want to leave this on the details of your book, Build Your Brand Mania. We've just got a couple of minutes left. Can you give everybody a summary of what that's about, what the message of the book is, and then people, if they want to know more about it, can go out and get it?
Yeah. So my background, I was really a salesperson. I was a door-to-door salesperson. I was a all commission phone salesperson. I actually did really, really well with that. And I was also trained in like pharmaceutical selling and a lot of investment and all that sort of thing. Well, as a salesperson, there's a certain kind of sales cycle and there's a certain kind of user experience that typically works. And if you can get the right kind of person going through the right kind of process it's not exact, but it kind of rhymes sort of thing. But you're trying to do that as many times as possible. It's kind of like, you want to buy a chicken, you want to buy a chicken, you want to buy a chicken. You're going to eventually also find someone that wants to buy a chicken. And then there's like a sales process to get them to buy the chicken once they're interested in raising their hand to buy the chicken. Well, digital marketing, what digital marketing does is it amplifies what you're doing. Just like with this podcast, one to many, sharing this knowledge and messaging, but not sharing it in one-on-one meetings or lunches or consulting sessions. It just gives you more reach with social media. And so really, that's how I've grown my business, and how I've helped other people grow their businesses by helping them leverage digital marketing. And really what I was doing is writing this book as I was doing it, and documenting, again, like the podcast of, I was reading a lot of books and I was highlighting them up and I was writing those golden nuggets. And I was having that for me, and really also for people on my team that are other digital strategists, to be able to sell themselves and build their authority online. But again, it was something that I could, publisher came and said, hey, like, boom. And then boom, we did it. And it's done really well. There's some really great reviews, and there's a lot of like really good nuggets in there, but it gives you a roadmap of how to market yourself, and the journey that I went on, where like talk about the podcast, how I've used the podcast, how I've used email automation, really that story of how to do that, to build yourself into a trusted brand that people like to do business with, they know, like, and trust. They also need to consume a certain amount of your content to get to that threshold to buy from you. And a lot of that's pre-work through content marketing and different channels. And so I tried to talk about it in a way for lay people to understand it, because sometimes you say digital marketing and it's just like, or people like turn it off. And so I didn't want to use the word SEO necessarily, but really like online promotion, social PR, online PR, those type of terms, layman's terms, give you a roadmap on how to do that, how I did it, specific case studies and examples, a lot of references, and just hopefully value. So Build Your Brand Mania, it's on Amazon. Encourage you to check it out. I'm not trying to really make any money off it. I actually put all that money in that I make from that back into marketing it. So like, again, like it's all, right. It's all just, it's driving that awareness to be building bigger content pieces to drive like the funnel, right? So really your funnel goes off page and gets more complex in each social media, and how to like build that audience. I just laid it out of how I did it. And I got another book out there. I think it's called, what is it called? It's called Rise of the Personal Brand. I got a bunch of other influencers actually in the Houston area that I always see online and that I've bumped into. And I asked them, how do they build their brand? Right. And so then I had each of them write a chapter and pulled that together and kind of tied it together. And it was cool to see what other people had done versus how I had done it. And, coming out with another book to talk about like social selling and that sort of thing, but just having a good time, not getting a lot of sleep for sure. Right now I got 2 kids. I've been hiring people. We just hired 3 people last week. We brought on 7 new clients last week. So things are just like going wild. I'm going to do some workshops at some point, also the podcast, bestseopodcast.com. If you want to hear more, I just go into more details, and I have a co-host and we kind of mess with each other. It's fun. There's some banter, and we bring up some important things that are going on. And if digital marketing and SEO is something that you're interested in learning more about, there's 500, almost 550 something episodes that are all 45 minutes long. And really a lot of them are time worthy. A lot of this stuff with SEO has maybe changed a little bit, and there's new stuff like LinkedIn Live and things of that nature that you want to leverage. But a lot of the fundamentals, if you want to learn how to do SEO, we give it all away. For free. So yeah.
Beautiful. All right, guys. So that was bestseopodcast.com is the podcast, and then Build Your Brand Mania is the book on Amazon. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. Awesome. If you found the interview useful and you want to get future episodes, then follow or subscribe wherever you listened. And Matt, just thanks so much for coming and sharing your wisdom today. Really appreciate it, dude.
Awesome, John. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully it was helpful.